Thanks again for tuning into Moonshine Gaming. Today we're going to be discussing the top 10 rarest and most expensive Nintendo DS games. Now, as per usual, we have a couple parameters we're going to be following for this list. We won't be including any collector's editions or big box editions, so the Pokemon games with the Pokewalkers will not be included. Also, we won't be including any case variants or not for resale or preview cartridges, so the Zelda preview cart and the Pokemon not for resale cartridges also won't be included on this list. We will be using North American complete in-box pricing, so what this means is that the game case, instruction manual, inserts, and game cartridge are going to be included for the prices on this list. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we've got Dementium II. This is a survival horror slash first-person shooter that was released in 2010 and is a sequel to Dementium the Ward. In this sequel, you waken in a locked cell with absolutely no knowledge of who you are or why you're even there. The mystery unfolds as you move through the hallways and you're introduced with the off-putting and seemingly random mechanic of sliding from location to location. As you progress through the game, you realize you're shifting between parallel universes, but early on it's difficult to tell whether it's actually happening or if it's just all in your head. Dementium II features many improvements over its predecessor, including different weapons, a larger variety of enemies, the ability to jump and crouch, save points, more environments, the ability to hold a flashlight and gun at the same time, an improved map system, and the removal of respawning enemies. There's a lot of stuff they added. In addition, health items are now saved in the inventory, and players can use them at any given time. The gameplay is fun and scary, and the atmosphere is great, although there is a lack of narrative, so it can be hard to follow the storyline at times. Also, the game is fairly short and can be completed in about 4 to 5 hours. Dementium 2 is a straightforward, horror-focused adventure that's certainly a step up from the original Dementium. This game's current market value is $252. Next up, we've got My World, My Way. This is an RPG that was released in 2009. Elise is a beautiful princess who's been given everything she ever wanted. Upon turning 15, she realizes there's only one thing she lacks: a handsome boyfriend. Thus, Elise orders her father to have a ball and invite every single prince in the land. It's kind of a reverse Cinderella situation. Elise meets her dream boyfriend at the ball, but he turns out to be an adventurer. And to Elise's dismay, the adventurer tells her that she must also become an experienced adventurer if she ever wants to be with him. And then the story begins. Elise is your stereotypical snobby, spoiled princess. You even have the ability to pout in the game, which will raise or lower the enemy's levels, increase the money and experience points you collect, and lower any XP or gold penalties you'd suffer from dying. It even gives you the option to auto-complete a quest if it's really boring. It's a really smart feature that helps keep your interest even through boring dungeons. The witty dialogue in this game is great and had me laughing a lot. A few of the downsides to the game are its plain turn-based combat and repetitive feeling dungeons, but these are small prices to pay for an otherwise fun and funny RPG. Anyone can whip up a quick Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy clone, but it's great to see a game that uses the assets it has, cuts corners where it needs to budget-wise, and focuses on making something really unique. Despite its repetitive feel and the inevitable grind that comes with leveling up, My World, My Way is a unique, innovative, and more importantly, fun game. This game's current market value is $256. Next up, we've got Discovery Kids' Snake Safari. This was an educational game that was released in 2010, and in the game you collect snakes from around the world, and there's 6 snakes that you're able to collect. Each snake species has its own characteristics, which impacts the way you hunt, capture, and take care of your new exotic pets. Learn how to take care of your snakes in their own special environments, hunt dangerous species from around the world to build up your impressive vivariums, and complete missions in the jungle to capture a new species or escape from danger. In the game, you use vivariums to preserve, protect, and feed the species you capture along the way, and learn interesting facts on the venomous species you've caught from the information sheets available. You can also trade captured species with other players over wireless connection. There are a few different aspects to this game, including RPG mechanics when trying to capture the snakes. There are a bunch of educational write-up screens related to snakes, and there's also a simulation aspect when caring for the snakes after they've been captured. The game isn't great, and it takes generic aspects from multiple different genres. It may be entertaining for younger kids, but it isn't worth playing otherwise. The current market value of this game is $274. Next up, we've got Blue Dragon Awakened Shadow. This is an RPG that was released in 2010, and it's the third game in the Blue Dragon series. And unlike its predecessors, which were a traditional turn-based RPG and strategy RPG, Blue Dragon Awakened Shadow is actually an action RPG with real-time combat. In the game, you're able to explore 3D fields, attack enemies directly, as well as call upon shadows. Awakened Shadow picks up the storyline 2 years after the end of the first Blue Dragon, and 1 year after the conclusion of Blue Dragon Plus. We find our heroes from those earlier adventures happily living their lives in a now peaceful Neo-Jabral kingdom where everyone, even the common townsfolk, have mastered the art of controlling shadows. That is, until you show up. A mysterious flash of light in the sky suddenly steals away everyone's shadows except yours, just before you walk into town controlling your own custom-created, custom-named character. Fighting mechanics are really fun. You hack and slash away at monsters, roll to dodge their attacks, summon your gigantic blue shadows to cast spells, and coordinate your efforts with your allies. I also really like how your MP and HP would slowly regenerate, which eliminated having to save constantly and worry about restoration items. Unfortunately, the game kind of suffers as a single player experience, with the majority of its quest feeling inconsequential. Though once the game finally gets going and you've adjusted to its playstyle, there's definite fun to be had in this dungeon crawling, monster brawling action RPG, but it'll always feel middle of the road. There are glimpses of a really good game, but at the end of the day, it's just your average RPG in my opinion. The current market value of this game is $280. Next up, we've got Powerbike. This is a third-person racing game that was released in 2009, and the game starts off when an anonymous benefactor offers to sponsor your ride. In the game, there are 8 courses, from open desert to heavily congested urban streets to a shipyard and more. You can earn in-game currency by winning races in the 3 game modes, as well as doing tricks. Once you've saved up enough, you can use these winnings to upgrade your bike's speed, acceleration, traction, and stability. Other than the crash animations, the graphics in-game are surprisingly good. Another positive is the solid and tight controls. A downside to the game is that there's no story mode. The only mention of the story is the anonymous benefactor that I said earlier. The game also features local multiplayer, which is actually pretty fun in the unlikely event that you're able to find somebody else who owns this game. To be honest, there isn't much information about this game online. With such a small print run and limited information, it's hard to tell if it was universally liked or not, but I enjoyed the gameplay myself, particularly the mode where you have to run away from the cops, GTA style. The game's worth a play if you're into handheld third-person racers. The current market value of this game is $298. And now for a quick word from the sponsor of this video. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody's sponsoring this small channel. But if you guys enjoy content like this, we put out video game related content every single Thursday, and you can consider subscribing to Moonshine Gaming to stay up to date with future videos. Back to the list. Next up, we've got Little Red Riding Hood's Zombie BBQ. Sorry, the game title always makes me laugh. This is an action rail shooter that was released on Halloween in 2008. The game takes place in Storyland, with areas representing a number of classic fairy tales, such as Pinocchio, Three Little Pigs, Sleeping Beauty, Santa Claus, and more. Little Red Riding Hood finds that something's gone wrong with Storyland soon after saving her grandmother from another wolf attack. Along with her friend Mama Taro, she decides to fight through the invading armies of zombies to find the source of the plague and destroy it. The game is a top-scrolling rail shooter where the player can move left and right into one of 7 spaces. Touching the character will cause them to crouch, while using the stylus to aim. Players may choose to be either Little Red Riding Hood, who specializes in guns, or Mama Taro, who specializes in ninja stars, although the differences are merely aesthetic. The action of the game consists entirely of shooting and dodging incoming attacks, with increasingly difficult obstacles as the game progresses. This game is awesome. The quirky voice acting, unique level design, and vibrant colors make for a great game. There are 2 small complaints I have about the game. First off, there's no checkpoints, and secondly, to launch missiles you have to double tap with the stylus, which makes it actually really easy to accidentally fire them. Overall, I really like Zombie BBQ's art style, sense of humor, and solid shmup gameplay. Like all games in this genre, the appeal can be limited. You shoot and dodge, and that's pretty much it. But if you're into these type of games, this one should not be missed. Besides, where else are you gonna find Little Red Riding Hood murdering her zombified grandmother with a shotgun? The current market value of this game is $311. Next up, we've got Commando Steel Disaster. This is a run and gun game released in 2008. In the game, various sectors of a military group report being attacked by some of their own war machines, and that a terrorist organization led by a man named Rattlesnake is at the center of each attack. A commando and vehicle specialist codenamed Storm is assigned to enter each affected area and progressively stop Rattlesnake's evil plan. Players control Storm through 5 long missions, and the object is to go through each level collecting weapons and ammunition to survive long enough to defeat the end level boss. There's no score or extra life bonuses, and it'll be game over if you lose all your health during the mission. You'll need to completely restart the mission if this happens, but once beating the first level, you can save your progress between missions, so you won't have to replay all of them if you get the dreaded game over screen. The controls are tight and customizable, which is great, but there are parts of the game that can be insanely difficult. The music is also pretty repetitive, and sometimes during the platforming sections, it's hard to tell the foreground from the background, and can result in some unfair feeling deaths. Commando Steel Disaster is a competent run and gun action title that does have its bright moments. It's unfortunate that for every fun boss fight and well-designed sequence, there are flawed levels, unreasonable difficulty spikes, and strange design choices. It's a title worth playing for those who love this genre, but its problems are difficult to ignore. The current market value of this game is $373. Next up, we've got Solatorobo, Red the Hunter. This is an action RPG that was released in 2011. This is a spiritual sequel to the little-known PS1 RPG called Tail Concerto, and Tail Concerto was actually featured on our previous video of top 10 rarest and most expensive PS1 games, and if you'd like to check that video out, I'll link it above and in the description below. Solatorobo stars a sky pirate fox dog who rides around on a robot called Dahak, and is set in a world of floating islands inhabited by anthropomorphic cats and dogs who all speak French. With his sister, Red the Hunter roams the skies in an airship in search of adventure. The game has a great story with a ton of dialogue and cutscenes to watch. You'll want to fully immerse yourself in the story if you want to get the most out of this game. I think some more voice acting would have been nice, as you do spend long periods of time reading text and it can get a little bit boring if you're not into that kind of thing. Most other aspects of the game are great, including its cutesy and colorful aesthetic, good controls, and great music. The game can feel fairly easy for experienced gamers, but personally, it didn't detract from my enjoyment of the game. This is probably due to the fact that there's a huge variety of level design and gameplay mechanics in the 80 different quests that keep things interesting. Solatorobo Red the Hunter is a game I highly recommend. It's been crafted with care and in painstaking detail, incorporating a lengthy, well-written story with engaging battle mechanics and impressive variety of quest styles. Keep in mind though, if text-heavy Japanese RPGs don't appeal to you, this one might be a pass. The current market value of this game is $410. Next up, we've got Veggy World. This is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up that was released in 2011. In this game, your mission is to defeat the evil plant's army in a fantasy world made up of fruits and vegetables. You'll battle your way through underwater, snow, and desert levels, and collect money to purchase new weapons to upgrade your ship. There are multiple game modes and 21 different stages in the game. Just like the Wii version of this game, as far as gameplay goes, this is definitely a bargain bin game. You can shoot forwards and backwards when playing, but the game always feels like it's running at half speed. Especially for a shmup, the game is way too slow in my opinion. The only good thing about this game is its bright and colorful animations and half-decent music. The controls aren't great and the sound effects can get really annoying really fast. Just like most other games released by Maximum Games, this is an obvious cut and paste game with generic game mechanics and lackluster gameplay. There are a ton of other great shmups on the Nintendo DS, looking at you, Space Invaders Extreme and Nano Stray, so Veggy World is probably a hard pass if you want a good shmup. The current market value of this game is $489. Next up, number 1, Shepherd's Crossing 2. This is a farming simulation game that was released in 2010. In the game, you'll choose your preferred genre, then you'll be thrown into a world where you've decided to move into a small village with your pet duck to start your own thriving and successful farm. Once you settle into the new village, you'll focus solely on harvesting crops, maintaining the farm, and raising various livestock. In the game, you have control over the layout of your farm, which crops to plant, the animals you breed, and your relationships with other townsfolk. Unlike Harvest Moon and other farming sims of that time, you could actually date and even marry an NPC of your choosing. This was pretty next level for back then. The game features the beautifully crafted anime-inspired graphics of most other popular farming simulation games, and paired with solid gameplay is an overall rewarding and enjoyable farming experience. One of the best things about Shepherd Crossing 2 over similar games is its open-ended sandbox gameplay that's less restrictive than other games. In Shepherd's Crossing, you can completely ignore sections of gameplay if you desire, and focus only on the aspects that interest you. The game doesn't offer a huge background story to players, but this definitely doesn't take away from the experience, since the story is never really the main focus of most simulation games. If you're into farming sims, you should definitely play Shepherd's Crossing 2 on the Nintendo DS. I personally enjoy it much more than Harvest Moon due to its increased difficulty, less restrictive gameplay, and amped up relationship mechanics. The current market value of this game is $498. What was your favorite game on the list? You can let us know down below. And also, if you have any ideas for future top 10s, you can let us know in the comments down below as well. That's going to do it for this video, and we will see you next time.